You are now listening to It's a Mindset with Tacarra Barnes, your weekly inspiration. I'm Tacarra Barnes, and thank you guys for listening. So it is definitely a mindset today. I'm very excited about this episode because I have another special guest with me, and her name is
Chloe Elam.
Chloe Elam. I know Chloe by basketball. I used to play against her when I was younger. She went to Russellville. This is back in my Converna days. I've always respected her as a player. She always worked hard. Seemed like she always did the right things on and off the court. Me and Chloe actually touched base with each other back on social media for a couple of years now. You know, she's been supporting me since day one with me doing my blogs and everything that I've put out. She's just really been one of my true supporters, day one supporters. So that's actually great. So Chloe, thank you so much for coming on here today. So just do us a favor and just tell us a little bit about yourself. I gave a little background, but just tell us about you, what you want us to know.
Okay. First of all, thank you so much, Tacarra, just for having me on there. Like you said, I just appreciate you doing what you do for yourself and promoting it's a mindset and your writings and everything. And I pray that God keeps on allowing that stuff to prosper for all of us listening and reading that. I am 28 years old. I'm just a country girl. Right now, I'm currently serving as the assistant basketball coach at Bowling Green High School, where I have the privilege to coach 19 young girls. More so for me, it's not much about the skill set of basketball anymore. It's just actually about making sure these girls are young ladies when they leave from being around me. I am a daughter and I am a sibling. Looking forward to God to bless me one day where I will be a wife. But other than that, I'm just pretty passionate about empowering other people, more so women than men, but anybody that God has me to run into. And that's a little bit about me.
Okay. Thank you so much for just you telling me what you said about me. That I really appreciate that. And like I said, I thank you so much for just supporting me and what you have done. So Chloe, just the reason why that I asked you to come on here today. So you have a book that's coming out that I'm excited about just from you telling me about it. And it seems like it's going to be something that's going to be really good just for our community and just people our age on all kind of aspects. So just tell us just the title of your book and just talk about just your kind of inspiration about it.
The title of my book is A Band-aide Won't Do. And my inspiration behind the book, which is definitely on this podcast, these people will be the first people to know this. The person that inspired me to do the book actually doesn't even know that she inspired me to write the book, or the way that the title came about pretty much came from her. So long story short, this past August, it was my grandmother's 75th birthday. And so me and my cousins and all of our family, it was the first time that we all had gotten together since the passing of my grandfather, which is coming up on 5 years. And during that time when we were all together, in Russellville, because I have family in Atlanta and family in Murfreesboro and family in California. So the last time we were actually together was when he passed away, but we were there physically, but, just because he was the glue to our family, none of us was there really trying to, see what we had going on or any of that. So this past August, my grandmother's birthday party, we were all just, hanging out and excited that finally, like, the grandkids and the great-grandkids were all together. And so we sat and we talked about, some of our dreams, some of our goals, and some of the things that we wanted to pretty much just take place. And some of the projects that we had going on, some of the projects we needed to completely cut off, some of the things that God has said, nope, that's not for you anymore. And so what happened was we were standing in front of my grandmother's front yard, and it was me and a bunch of my male cousins, and out the blue, one of my female cousins, she comes and taps me on the shoulder. And we had just been talking about, like, our dreams and what drives us and, what we needed to do, Tacarra, just to become better people and to push, each other. Because I have a very talented family, and I don't just mean that to sound conceited or to boost them up or whatever you would call it. But I mean, like, we don't just, like, play basketball. If we play basketball, then we can draw. If we, do those two, then we could start a podcast or we could write a book and that kind of thing. But we procrastinate a lot. And so my cousin came up to me and she was like, can I talk to you? And so I was like, yeah. So, we kind of stepped to the side and she was just like, cuz. She was like, the reason why I think I can't find, what my talent really is, she was like, because I'm wounded. And immediately, like when she said that, like in my head, because this is how I operate, I always try to figure out why God has put me in some, position or whatnot, or to talk to certain people. So I was like, okay, hold on, wait a minute, pause. Okay, God. So in my head, I'm talking to myself. I'm like, why did you have her to say that to me? And I'm asking this question because I know for me and my family and my friends that are Black, you don't see Black people being very transparent or vulnerable when it comes to stuff like that. When you say wounded,
Right.
that lets me know that something has happened, but we don't talk about that. We never really talk about it. Like it takes us a long time, to get that out and to be able to say, hey, this happened or this bothered me or this went on. So when she said that, immediately I'm already like, okay, God, hold on, wait a minute. Why did you have her to come to me in this way? What are you using me for in this moment? Because we as Black people, we really don't do that. So, then she has my full attention. Like my eyes are on her, my ears are open, my heart is already like, oh my gosh, what is she going to say? And one of the reasons for that is because this cousin of mine struggles with drug addiction, like real drug addiction, like cocaine, drug addiction. And she's a mother who has kids, but because of her drug addiction, she's fighting that battle of taking care of her kids or doing drugs. And she's usually smart enough to know, okay, I can't take care of my kids in this moment.
Right.
So with that being said, she says to me, I'm wounded. And I'm looking at her like, okay, well, what is it? And she's like, I know that I can talk to you and I can trust you. So I'm like, okay. And so she then looks at me and with the serious face, she says, my whole life, she said, I have been hurt, like to the point where when I look in the mirror, Chloe, I don't see a Black that's beautiful. I see a Black that's ugly, because from the time I was little up until now, the only thing people have said to me was, you so Black, you purple. She was like, and though that's a joke, it has wounded me. And I'm sitting there like, my God, because I'm thinking, oh, she's talking about the family, because that's what we do. We get together and we're cracking jokes on each other. Like they talk about my eyes being big all the time. It doesn't bother me, but just because that doesn't bother me doesn't mean that the things that come out of my mouth about someone else in my family or that I know, that it doesn't bother them as well. And so she was like, the reason why I feel like I really turned to drugs so quickly, she said, was because of that I was wounded. She said, and I attracted myself to something that I really didn't need. She said, but in those moments when I'm high and I'm around other people who are high, we don't worry about what we look on the outside. We actually focus on how we feel on the inside that we can't share with people who are not like us. And I'm sitting there like, my God, like you, what? And so she tells me, she said, but the way that I've bounced back or the way that I have attacked other people is that, they tell me, oh, I was just joking. If they feel like it hurt my feelings, not that I really show it, but if they just think that they hurt my feelings, then they tell me, oh, I was just joking. She was like, as if them saying they was just joking does something for my wound, but it does not. So the whole time, Tacarra, to make that story, to wrap that story up some, the whole time I'm thinking, oh my goodness. And instantly in my head, a Band-aide won't do popped up. And I'm like, okay. So later on that day, we had this conversation, and I talked to her and I apologized because I know I've said that to her like all the time. And so I apologized to her, and we go out to my Uncle Leno's house because my cousin from California, he's in, and he raps. His name is Thais. If any of y'all have the chance, check him out. He's very lyrical, not just rapping on a tight beat, but he's actually, spitting stuff that we need to hear. And we go out to my uncle's all the time because he graduated from school to be a producer and stuff. So we go out and we get in the studio all the time. Like that's how we get together and connect, and we cut up. But the whole time, like usually I can get in the booth and just spit 16, like just I'm just in there just spitting. Well, I couldn't because the whole time I'm sitting out there thinking of this conversation I've held with her. And in my head over and over, a Band-aide won't do, a Band-aide won't do, a Band-aide won't do is in my head. So I leave the studio and that's in Auburn, and I'm headed home, and I start praying to God. I'm like, God, what do you want me to do with that? What do you want me to do with that? And he tells me, he was like, Chloe, I want you to write a book. He was like, and I want you to be completely bold, but I also want you to empower them at the end of every chapter. He was like, now I don't want you to procrastinate like you always do. I need you to write the book for your people. And so I mean, like that's really what happened, because what I started to see was that, you know, a lot of times with Black people, what we do is when we have stuff in our life where we have been traumatized, or stuff that has been traumatic for us, or that we don't understand, or that we don't see our, you know, white friends or our Asian friends or any of them going through, well, we just hide it with something that's temporary. And so in that moment, while I'm looking at her, I'm like, that's what she has did, because that's what we do. Saying it's a joke, even though it's already came out of our mouth, is pretty much putting a Band-aid over a surgical wound that really needs attention. It needs a doctor. It needs stitches. It may need an amputation. But what we do is, because we don't want anybody to know what we're going through, it's like, oh, I'll cover it up with this Band-aid. If I cover it up with this Band-aid, won't nobody know what's underneath it. I ain't got to deal with it. The scab will come. I ain't got to worry about it. And then when nobody asks about it when the scab is over it. Right. Well, that doesn't help us. It doesn't help us, because we still end up in the same situation, because what happens, you know, you get to messing with that scab, or you hit something and that scab come off, well, the wound is still there. And so pretty much my inspiration behind writing that was from my cousin. And she doesn't even know that. If she listens, she'll know now, but she doesn't know that. But that's pretty much how it came about. That was the reason behind that, because I knew I could take that and see what else God wanted me to talk about that we kind of do as Black people, and use that to empower other people. So that's pretty much my inspiration behind that.
Okay. So that's awesome. That's extremely awesome. I love the background on that. I love that you have purpose behind that. So, you know, like I said, you know, I'll come up with stuff to ask you as you say things. So we're talking about, so you mentioned, we're talking about, so first of all, let me ask you a question. So where's your cousin from?
She's from Russellville.
So she's from Russellville. So, you know, and something that I wanted to talk about today, I wanted to talk about, you know, the Black mindset in small towns. And just when you're talking about Band-aids, you know, you really, you know, and I'll be honest with you. I mean, I've been reading your cover. I've read all the stuff that you've sent me. I've read just your first page. And I'm thinking about, you know, you're talking about Band-aids and how we do the Band-aids, and how us as the Black community, we put little things on stuff just to, you know, and I'm thinking of a Band-aid I'm thinking about in particular that you're talking about. And this could be something I'm thinking a little deep. So how many times, if, you know, and I know, have you seen that video? Have you seen that video where those kids did that race, and it had the Black kids and the white kids?
At the end?
Yes. Have you seen that?
I never got to. Yeah. I seen that.
Okay. So something I'm thinking about, we're talking about Band-aids in the Black community. Think about all the times where somebody's in a situation and they're going through something, and we're not, our head isn't above water to help them in that situation, but we do something right away just to fix their situation immediately, right then, what they've got going on right then. But then, you know, if that makes sense, especially when it comes to like money issues.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you. I think that a lot of times, especially with us, and like I find that, like, usually, like when I talked earlier about us one, you know, we're not very transparent. Like sometimes I feel like that we think that, you know, we have to, like, being Black and being in a small community, and white people usually, they can't understand this. They don't understand, like, you know, well, you wasn't there when your ancestors was doing X, Y, and Z. Well, physically we were not, but mentally we are still in that same state. Right. And I think that when you grow up like in a small town and you have the mindset of not wanting to really discuss some of the things that are going on with you, you struggle a lot more. But the reason why I think that we struggle so much, Tacarra, with that is because a lot of times we think we need the permission of people outside of our race to do whatever it is that we want to do. Oh. Well, I come to tell, we don't need permission for what? My permission, and this is not just to really drag God in the middle of things, but for me, he is the center of my life. But my permission was when his son died on the cross for me. Okay. So I don't need your permission to do anything that I want to do, any of my dreams, any of my goals. I don't need the permission of a white person. Like, I look at some of my friends, and it's like, if my friend comes to me and tells me she wants to start a business, and I'm looking at her, I'm like, oh, well, I can help you out. What you want to do? It's like, oh, wait a minute, girl. Now listen. Now, you know you can't help me out. But you let Susan be standing over her white, and she said, well, what do you need? Right. Well, we're ready to bring her on our team, not knowing if she's really trying to help us or not. Like, what if Susan is really not trying to get you to the level you need to be on, but she wants you to stay mediocre so you don't go above her business? But what if I am really trying to to push you into something new. But our mindset is so messed up when it comes to that stuff because we're not really ready, or we're not able, or we're not willing, more I should say, we're not willing to let our people who look just like us help us out when they're going through the same things that we're going through. Like, and that's something that I struggle with, that I don't understand, but that I see happening, not just with our older adults, but even with our youth. They do the same thing. Like, the same thing. And I'm like, that to me, that is so crazy, because we miss out on the opportunities and the relationships that we could be building with each other, because we're not ready to actually be like, oh yeah, we're united, we're together on this, we got unity. We're not ready for that.
Right. You know, something, what, you know, us talking about this, and and I'm just gonna be transparent when I say this. So, you know, we're talking about just the Black mindset of a small town. You know, you being from Russellville, me being from Horse Cave, Kentucky. You know, and I've told you this before, you know, me, I really had to leave the area that I was at because, you know, and I'll just be honest, I feel like, you know, a lot of the times that we're so put in a box already, and we allow other people to put us in that box, and we don't know how to get ourselves out that box. So we just stay in that box. So we don't want better for ourselves. If, you know, if that makes sense. So, you know, and I'll be honest with you, you know, the first time I've ever really dealt with racism, you know, when you're younger, you know, you're in middle school, you got people who call you a nigger, you know, you have that, but you know, it don't really hurt you. You know what I'm saying? You're ready to fight for it, but it's not hitting you. It's not in your soul where it's really affecting you. So I actually dealt with racism really for the first time, probably about a year ago, where it really kind of affected me because, you know, you really have to, you know, me, I'm a kind person. I would never really mistreat anybody like that or do anything like that purposely trying to hurt somebody. So for me, it's like, you know, when you're dealing with racism, you really have to kind of really check yourself. Like, is this what really just happened? Or is this what I'm going through? But anyway, I will get into that too. But like I was just saying, you know, just the mindset of us being from small towns, we don't want better for ourselves. But also too, when we see the Black people like us who are doing better for themselves, we put names on them like bougie. Or we put names in they think they're better than everybody else when they are doing better for themselves. You know, something else too, while we're on it, you know, my husband, Terrell, he is from, so, you know, Terrell is from Georgia. He's from Georgia. He's from Riverdale, Georgia, where Waka Flocka's from. So it's a little hood where he's from. So he went to an all-Black high school. So I had to talk to him before he moved to Kentucky. I had to talk to him about racism, or, you know, this is the way things go. This is how things go. And he really thought it was kind of oblivious. He was oblivious to it because he's never experienced that before, coming from where he's from. And something, you know, we're talking about small towns, you know, and you agree with me when I say this, Chloe. So when we're in a small town from where we're from, success to us, if we see a successful Black man, he's a drug dealer. If we see, and we don't really see successful women, you know, we don't really see that. We don't see marriages. We don't see, you know, I can think of a time where my husband, when I first asked him if his parents were married, he was like, yeah. I was shocked by that. And my words back then, my mindset was, oh, Black people don't get married. That was literally words that I said to him. That was my mindset, because me coming from that small town, I don't know what success looks like. You know, when we're from small towns, if we see Black doctors, we're shocked. If we see Black lawyers, we're shocked. Like, oh, how did that happen? You know what I'm saying? So it's just because we haven't seen it. Success to us are people who are selling drugs, or people who work at a factory. And there's nothing wrong with that. But that's success for us, somebody making $700 a week. And that's good money to us because we don't see more.
And I think that, like, just on that topic, I think that, like, even another thing that is success for us is sports.
Yes.
And when you're in a small town, the only thing that you think you can do is play a sport. And don't get me wrong, because basketball was the outlet for me for everything. And I loved it. So it's not like I was pushed into it. My mother didn't make me play. My dad didn't make me play. I actually love basketball. But when I look around my family, and I said earlier that we're really talented, like, and I mentioned, you know, sports first, because pretty much all of us play basketball. The men, they play basketball and football. Then we added track and all of that. But when I really look at them and I'm like, what do you want to do? I remember not too long ago, maybe 2 years ago, me really sitting down with my sister and asking her, like, you know, I don't really know what you wanted to do. Like, what was your dream? Like, you know, what was it? Because I know what it is. Like, that's my sister. Like, we got the same mama, pretty much the same daddy. And I don't know what she wanted to do outside of sports, because when you're in that small town and you're good, when you're a Tacarra Barnes or you're a Chloe Elam, you know what I'm saying, or a Mikey Benton, and when you're people like that in this small town, well, people don't really focus on what you say on the outside. And I know that for a fact, because from the time I was in first grade, I knew I wanted to be a writer. But because I was so good at basketball, I didn't have people outside of me who paid attention to the fact that I was like, I want to write. I want to do poetry. Like, it was a joke to them, because it was like, what?
Oh
Like, you
yeah,
want to do what?
that's lame.
Like,
That's lame.
you're from Russellville. Like, and even now, like, when I was telling some of my friends, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna write a book. Like, one of my friends that I play basketball with, she was like, you're so weird. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she was like, you're weird. Like you want to write a book? And then when she actually seemed like, oh, she really wrote it, she still was like, you're weird, but I love you. Like, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes, when it comes out, I'm gonna buy it. And I can't say that she's never did that, because when I had applaud her going, she bought shirts and stuff. But in my head, I got the mindset like you. Like, I always have a fourth quarter mindset. So in my head, I'm thinking, how is that weird? Because I no longer want to make my life be about a basketball. Like, because I have other dreams. Like, I've been having the same dream as being a basketball player. I got the same passion for that I have for writing, and they all started at the same time. So just because you chose to tune out that I wanted to be a writer doesn't mean that I just have to be a basketball player. But when you're in a small town, people don't really want to see you, I guess you could say, multi-talented in different areas. It's like, oh, well, whatever they saying about you in the newspaper, or whatever the high school's excited about, especially when you're black. Like, oh, you play ball? Well, all I want to know is how many points you had last night. Did y'all win? They never ask, how's your day? What you got going on? Well, what you going to do if you don't make it with basketball? Because in a small town, you automatically assume, especially when you're the star, oh, I'm making it. Right. This is how I'm going to get my family out of whatever. I'm going to be this star. And so we stay in that box. Right. And we don't come out of that box. So you're right. Like, either it's factory work, and I know that firsthand because that's what my mom did. When my mom and dad got a divorce, my mom worked 3 jobs. 2 of them was a factory. Like, and so that's success for us, because that's where, we're bringing in money. My mom could buy us whatever we wanted. I mean, she's slaving. She has 3 jobs. Oh yeah. And so we stay in that box frame. And then what happens is, when we leave that small town and we try to get out, but we don't really have a support system, well, we migrate on back to that small town, and we stay in that small town and trying to figure out, like, okay, well, what am I going to do? I don't know what to do. And that's a lot of times, that's how our black men stand on a corner and they become drug dealers, is because they couldn't make it, because nobody bought into the other part of them outside of that sport, right, outside of that factory, outside of them saying, I want to go to college. Like, you want to go to college, bro? Like, right, for what? Like, and so our mindset from small towns, and the fact that we're black, you add that in, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Oh, I agree. So you just talked about how people only really, when we're in a black community, a small town, people only see us for sports and athletics. And and I'll be honest with you, when you saying that, it really kind of hit a light bulb for me, because like, I think about just me, and I'll be honest, school wasn't for me. College wasn't for me, and I tell everybody this to this day, and I'm thinking about it on top. I say, hey, college wasn't for me, and I'm honest. I only went to college because it was free. But, when I look at, the Tacarra, the 27-year-old Tacarra, and the 18-year-old Tacarra all the way through college, like, something about me and myself, and I've learned since, I'm getting into this, and, that I'm going to hit on that point where you're talking about people say that you're weird when you do, artistic stuff. For me, I think about how me, Chloe, I'll be honest with you, that you're the girl who told you that you were weird. I was that person to be like, oh, you're different. You want to write poetry. You want to write books. Like, who does that? Because me growing up, I was too cool. I was too cool to get good grades. And I was really, really smart. I was too good to get too cool to get good grades. I wasn't interested. And I'll be honest with you too, me growing up, I can't really think of times that my parents asked to see my report card. And my mom was an educator. But it was always, it was never really my grades that my parents really cared about, but it was my daddy was always, if you get 30 tonight, you can get those new shoes. If you get 25 tonight, you can get these new shoes. Never good grades, if that makes sense. You get what I'm saying? So I can definitely understand what you're saying when you're talking about that.
Yeah, and that was the same thing I can't really say that about my mom, because once my my mother and my dad divorced, then my mom was pretty much on us about, listen, if you ain't got the grades, you ain't playing. But I was like you too. Like once I realized, like I mean, I came up to play varsity basketball when I was in 6th grade, so you couldn't tell me nothing. Like what? Like and a lot of people that know me know like basketball was a God-given talent. Like I never ever in my life really worked really hard at basketball because it was God given. And I thank God for that because I went through so much being young that I know he knew I needed something as an outlet so I wouldn't have to always deal or be worried or be thinking about some of the stuff that I went through, like being a small kid. And I talk about a little bit of that in the book, so I won't say much about it. But he, he knew like, okay, I'm going to have to use this kid. I'm going to have to get her, somewhere else with something so that she's not always in this, that mindset, because I was in a very bad mindset as a young kid. But you couldn't tell me nothing once I got to high school. Like I was like, I'm like you. Like I ain't trying to make no good grades for real.
Right.
Like
For what?
I'm hooping. Like and the crazy thing that I think, and for all the young kids or the young athletes that'll listen to this that are Black especially, the crazy thing that I think that we tend to forget, or that parents tend to tell their kids, and people will say no, that's not true, but this is the truth. You get a school that has a lot of Black kids with a lot of white educators, well, they not finna keep pushing you too hard anyway to make the good grades.
Yes.
You just go ahead and keep on playing ball,
Yes.
because I don't want you to succeed over mine anyway. And we tend to forget that. So I didn't have educators who just came in and was like, Chloe, now you need to make sure that your grades are right. Come on, you need to come to study hall. I didn't have them until my coach got there when I was a sophomore. And like I have some white friends that are really good friends to me that I know want the best for me just because. But listen, growing up, it took my coach to come in when we were sophomores as an assistant, and then when we were a junior, for us to really get our act together, because we knew that she seemed better than us, and it wasn't just about basketball. But before she got there, didn't nobody care what Chloe Elam was doing, long as I was on the court when the ball went up in the air. They didn't care. And so I think sometimes like our kids forget that. Like they're like, oh, I'm this great athlete. And then they trying to figure out when that sport is over why they keep getting sent to the office. Well, let me be the first to tell you, you keep getting sent to the office because you ain't playing the sport right now. It ain't in season. They're going to let you do whatever while it's in season because they want to win. Right. But once you out of season and you still cutting up, well, yeah, you get to go to the office. You get expelled. You get all of those things because ain't nobody worried about you right now because it ain't in season. Now, next year when it comes back around, well, I got you. You ain't going to get in trouble for nothing. And I think sometimes like we tend to forget that. But like I was right there with you. As far as, like, I ain't trying to make no good grades. I ain't trying to worry about this. I'm not writing no paper. I'm not doing those things. But I'll be at practice today. I'll be here early, actually. Okay. I'm going to get up 150 jump shots before practice because this is what I'm going to do, because nobody ever told me that I could do any of the other stuff that I had mentioned that I wanted to do.
Right. I agree, with you saying that too. A lot of things too, it's something I talked to Michaela with a couple of weeks ago before me and her actually start recording, and that's something that you have to look at for yourself and I'll give you a story with what you're talking about. So my senior year in high school, I started, with me, I transferred high school my junior year. I went to Marion County. My sophomore year, junior year at Caverna, where I came from, that's when you took an integrated science class. When I went to Marion County, apparently you took your integrated science class a freshman year. So I remember, and I knew that. So me, when it came time the last semester, when graduation was coming up, I went to my guidance counselor myself and told my guidance counselor, hey, I haven't taken an integrated science class because, they do the transcripts and all that stuff. I could have had the mindset to be like, well, they ain't say nothing, so I ain't going to do it. If I wouldn't have checked myself, I wouldn't have graduated high school because over one class, of my transcripts, them transferring just because of miscommunication like that. And that's one thing we get caught up into as athletes. We think so many people have us, or we don't think it's important, or we think, oh, well, they got it because we just, people do it for us so much that we don't understand that we have to look out for ourselves.
Yep. You're absolutely right. And it took my coach, I can give her, just a shout out for that. It took Dee to really come in and say, Chloe, now listen, Like, yeah, you're great, but you got to think, like, what if basketball doesn't work? What are you going to do then? And then that light bulb kind of came on, like, okay, well, that's what my mama been talking about when she said you need to make good grades. Like, my mama never really got too deep with it because she knew I was smart enough to make the grades. But she was like, I'm going to teach you a lesson because you don't got to play. I
Right.
don't care what they say. You don't have to play. And then, I have my dad who, I'm a daddy's girl. Like, I talk to my dad probably 5 times a day. And my dad's on the phone, and he's the opposite. He's like, what'd you do on the court? Because he played ball. So he's like, what'd you do on the court? What'd you do? And so, like, having that and then having teachers that ain't pushing you too, you're pretty much like, okay, well, if I ain't got to do it, well, I'm probably not going to do it.
Right.
And it takes somebody to come in and say, no, now listen. And you get to make that choice. And when I go home now and I look at some of the kids in Russellville that are very talented, but I know, where they come from. I know the community, obviously, because that's where I was raised. But then I know their parents and some of their struggles. And I'm like, listen, you just think that basketball is going to be your outlet where you're failing. Like, we are failing to prepare you for real life. Like, you're not going to be prepared if all you're worried about is the fact that you can catch a football and run it in for a 70-yard touchdown, that you can hit a baseball over a fence, that you can run faster than everybody on the track, that you dropping 30 a night on the hardwood and can't nobody touch you. Because when it comes graduation time, like you said, you find out that transcript ain't right. Or you trying to figure out why ain't nobody recruiting you because your grades ain't high enough. Your GPA, we don't know what that is. Like, your ACT score is a joke. Like, and then it hits us like, well, dang, why didn't nobody help me?
Where was y'all at? Where
you at when I was struggling for real? Like, you wasn't worried about anything but the W? And so that I think, like, just, I think, like, for us, like, we, like, as a whole, like, just as a race, as people, like, we have to be willing to be, more involved with our kids and our youth and the kids and the people that we're running into to fix that situation. Because, again, when we don't do that, we're not in fourth quarter mindset, and we're definitely putting Band-Aids over stuff that is not going to hold up. Like, you putting that Band-Aid over the fact that, oh, he's a good sports player, but he can't make the grades. Well, when that Band-Aid come off, he ain't going to college.
Right.
He ain't graduating.
Ooh.
Like, and so, and we struggle with that because we're not really pushing each other in the right areas. And we can blame a lot of that. And in my book, when people read it, they're going to be like, well, Lord, I don't know if she like white people or not. And that's not the point is for that. The point is to let us know that, like, we can really do this thing without always having to feel like we got to depend on them or we need their say-so. Right. It's not that I don't like white people, because I love all people. Like, I don't care what you look like. But the point is that now I'm at that point where when God said, I need you to be bold, I knew exactly what he meant. And if I can't say it to my own people, I sure don't want nobody else that don't look like me saying it to my people.
Right.
So why not be the person that says it? Because if I hear you saying it and you don't look like us and you don't know what we're going through, well, we got a problem. Right. It's the same way when we use nigga. Like, when we say that, like, hold on, wait a minute, because you don't know what we've been through. But we really never even realize or never even sit to think about if there is a black person that really doesn't like to be called that. We don't care because we like, oh, well, he look like me, she look like me, and that's what we say. But we don't pay attention to, like, what if that is a wound for them? Like, we never pay attention to that stuff. Right. But you let it come out of somebody else's mouth that don't look like us. We're ready then. Right. Like, we're ready. Like, hold on, wait a minute, pump your brakes. Like, we might not be together. I might not have his back with other stuff, but I got his back now. And, like, I just feel like in that area, like, we're always failing in that area because of those things.
Right. Oh, right. Man, you said a lot of really, really good points. So let me ask you a question. So we're talking about just the black community, the black people in the small towns, just the mindset that we have. So how do you think how can we grow from that? Like, how can we make a change, as the black community in small towns? Like, what areas? Like, how can we grow? What do you think about that?
And Tacarra, I definitely just think, like, growth. I think for us, in order for us to do that, like, we got to have unity. And it pretty much, I mean, it's the same thing that we kind of already said, but I don't just mean unity when it comes to, like, Tacarra was a great basketball player. I mean, when Tacarra says, hey, Chloe, I'm finna start this podcast, I'm like, well, what you need from me? Right. Like, what do you need from me? Like, and a lot of times that's like, there's so many people in my small town, and I'm sure it was like this in Horse Cave. There are so many black people, Tacarra, that are talented. Do you hear me? That have gifts that, like, listen, if you was in Hollywood, honey, you'd been done made it. Like, but what happens is that we waiting on other races to buy into their business. Well, hello, they not. because they worry about their own people. Like, and that's like in my book, I sit and talk about how one day I was just looking out my window and I got to looking around like the stuff that was around me, and I'm like, man, we got nail shops across the street. They not owned by black people. So we got these Asians, Koreans, whatever they are in there who's doing nails. You hear me? But they invest in themselves.
Right.
So for us, like when we have a person that says, "Hey, I'm gonna open up a salon," because I know like my braiding skills is legit. But she don't have a Chloe or a Tacarra or, a Tiara or a Shaquisha. She don't have none of us behind her like, yeah, you should do that, what you need.
Right.
Like, we're not growing. And we're trying to figure out why the small town remains the same and the cycle keeps repeating itself. Well, it keeps repeating itself because we don't want to invest in our own people. But you let Jennifer or you let a Rebecca say, well, I just opened up this new restaurant. We can't wait to go sit down and see what Rebecca's talking about and leave tips. Well, why you can't leave a tip to yourself to go help out your people, like your own people that's doing that? So I really think in order for us to grow, like we got to start looking at each other and be like, hold on, wait a minute.
Right.
I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I still want to support you.
Right.
Like, as long as it's something, that I get down with, I want to support you. I want to support you. And I also want to know that, guess what? You're going to support me too for whatever I want to do. I think we have to start speaking this stuff to our younger kids because they don't know they can be entrepreneurs. They don't know that. Right. They don't know what they can be outside of what they've always been told. And I think in order for us to grow, in order for our towns to start looking, because when I go to Russellville, I'm like, man, I graduated high school 10 years ago, and it's so different in the schools and in the community. Like when I go down there, I'm like, oh, Lord, I got to hurry up. I'm going to turn on Nashville Road, go to my grandmama's, make sure she okay, sit and laugh with her. But then I got to get back to Bowling Green. Right. Because when I'm at home, I'm just like it's a burden, like a struggle to just be there because nothing is going on. And I know there's talented people there. Like, why is nothing going on when I know who is capable of what in that town? Like, and it's because we don't have the support system. If you don't got the support system, yeah, you can try it. But if the people that you really want to support you ain't really supporting you, you ain't. That's like me. Like I've written, I guess, maybe 2 books that I was like, you know what? Like, applaud her. I wrote that book and I was like, you know what? I really want to put that out. But then, because I have this thing with procrastination, but also it really is fear. So when I don't think something is going to happen the right way, when God tells me that it is, well, I put it off. Like, nope, I ain't doing that because I don't know the outcome. And I think that's the same thing that happens when we have dreams and we have goals and we're trying to meet them, or we want something to happen. When we tell it to a few friends and they, like my other friend, like, oh, you weird. It's like, oh man, the people that I wanted to really support me, they done shot me down. So let me just go back and stand on this block because I don't know what else I'm going to do. So really, like, that's my thing. In order for us to grow, I think we really, really have to just come together and be okay with saying, you know what, I got your back. Like, I got your back. Like, I can't give you everything, but I got your back. I can help you. Like, I can hold you accountable. If you can't do nothing else, if you can't give $10 for the shirt, I can hold you accountable to make sure that you still trying to pursue that dream if I know that's really your passion. But we won't even do that as Black people. It's like, nope, let me get on top first, and then I might see what I can do for you. Okay. And that thing right there, listen, I can go in on that bad boy. That, for me, is one of the, and I talked about this in the book, and I'm just going to go ahead and tell you just because it's just on me. That's fine. One of the phrases, Tacarra, that I hate, and I mean, listen, I don't hate a lot of stuff. I got a whole lot of stuff that I don't like, a whole lot of little pet peeves. But this one right here, I hate this with a passion. When I hear Black people say, I keep my circle small, I lose my mind. Because in my head, I'm thinking, do you know what you're saying? Because right now you saying I keep my circle small because you think that's what people want to hear. Well, actually, they're looking for another action from you that they can't seem to get because you're so worried about not keeping your circle small. But then in the same sentence, you mad because your dream or whatever it is that you're trying to do won't grow. Well, I'll tell you why it won't grow, because you only got 2 people that you connected to, and they the same 2 friends you've been having since kindergarten, but you mad because something won't grow. Well, if you don't let nobody in, how do you expect for stuff to grow? I'm confused. Like, every time I hear a Black person say that, I'm thinking, well, 1, that's what they want us to do anyway, is not come together. 2, you want to advertise that you're not willing to come together with any of your people, and then you say it so freely, like that's cool. Like it's not cool to say I keep my circle small when you're really keeping your circle small. But when you don't have no income coming in, that's real income. You have dreams that you know could take you far. But the reason why they can't to cars because we don't want to help each other.
Right.
We want our circle to be small. Like, and then we want to say, but I'm 100. I'm 100, but you ain't with nobody.
Right.
Like how you 100 if you just keep it between you and your 2 kindergarten friends? Like they ain't gonna tell you what you want to hear. They not finna make you uncomfortable so you can grow. Like they not doing that. They on the same thing that you on.
Right.
Like, girl, I ain't fooling with them. They fake. Like that phrase right there, I keep my circle small, drives me crazy. It literally drives. Like every time I hear one of like my friends or somebody that I grew up with or somebody that I played ball with or just anybody black in general say that, I'm like, that I don't think that's what like you need to be saying because that's stupid to me. Like in my eyes, and it might just be me, but in my eyes, I'm thinking that's dumb. Like if you're trying to grow, like if you're trying to expand a business, that's stupid. Like for you to say that. And the thing about us is that when we say phrases, we don't just say them, honey. We live them out. So eventually, you've been saying I keep my circle small. Well, eventually, you're trying to figure out why you only got 1 or 2 friends, maybe 3. Well, I tell you what, because you start living that stuff out, that stuff you start speaking, it starts happening. And I'm just like, listen, I can't do that. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. That's crazy.
Right. So, I'll share with us talking about this, and I'll share something that what the white person actually told me. And like I said, I'm gonna be transparent on my podcast because it's my podcast, and I'm just gonna keep it 100% because that's just me. So, I've had a person tell me that the only way that black people we're gonna get out of the situation that we're in is us owning our own businesses. And that's putting each other on and changing generational curses. And you know what I'm saying? And having something to give to our kids or having something to give to our family members or passing things down. Business ownership, because we're creating our own opportunities. But the thing about it is though, I'm going to look at this from both angles. I'm going to call us out, on two angles. So when it comes to the black people owning the businesses, one, when we do own our businesses, we don't run them right. We don't do things legitly. We do things on the side. We're not legit with our stuff. We've got Ray running this. We've got Ray running that. We're not, if we're established, but we're not open on time, or we open and close when we want to. Or from the other reason, we don't have support from other black people who are supporting our businesses. Just like, something that stood out to me on Jay-Z, and shout out to Jay-Z because I love Jay-Z. But he said on that album, he said on a, Family Feud, nobody wins on the Family Feuds. And he says, I be damned, excuse me, because I don't usually curse.
Hey, that's in the book too. That's in the book. I already know what you're about to say. Yes, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead, but it's in the book.
He says, I be damned if I buy some Belvedere while Puff got Ciroc. Y'all need to stop. And and it don't get no realer than that. And then, but when a black person does own a business, and when they do, well, what about so and so? Well, I'm gonna buy from so and so. Well, she be acting funny. She don't do stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's always something like that.
Man, I'm telling you, that's the stuff like that. That when I say the book is bold, it's because that's in there. I like to listen to artists who are very lyrical, but who's telling stories that'll make you think about stuff. Like I don't like listen, and probably because when I rap just like I write poetry, so I always try to make sure it was relevant or that it was something that I've been through or any of that. So if I was going to record something, I didn't just want it to be like a whole bunch of stuff just to say I could do it. So now when I listen to music, like I listen to Jay-Z for that, and I've never really even been like a huge Jay-Z fan, but when 444 came out and I said, listen to this black capitalism up in this thing. Like I got to go back because I was pretty much done with A Band-aide Won't Do. And I was like, nope, wait a minute, because he just hit the spot of something I've already said. But that right there will seal the deal because I ain't got to say no more because y'all might not know Chloe Elam, but you know Jay-Z. So, and if he can say that, I'm not going to go buy nothing from this man when my boy got the same thing. I don't care if I'm feuding with him or not. Guess what? I'm still going to support, Puff just because he looked like me. Like, what I look like spending money when I can go over here and spend the same money with the people that look like me to make sure that his family is still eating. But we don't see that, like us small town people or just black people in general who only knows how to get something one way. we don't see it like that. It's like, no, Tacarra, like, I mean, go ahead with your podcast, but I mean, it ain't gonna cost me nothing to subscribe for real, but I ain't gonna do it just because I'm trying to start my own podcast, and I ain't trying to make sure your podcast ahead of my podcast. Like, we're always in competition in the wrong areas, and I'm like, I'm so confused.
Yes.
Like, how can you be in competition in the wrong areas with people who look like you? And the thing that really that bothers me so much, I think, is that when I look at how, we're ready to, start riots for this police brutality, which, don't get me wrong, because it eats me up every time I see the news and there's somebody different that doesn't die just because they look like me, especially when they're boys, because I'm like, I got two brothers. Hold on. Like, my daddy's still here. Like, I got uncles. You know what I'm saying? I got cousins. I got men that are black who are handsome, great black men, and they just might be driving them just because.
Right.
But when I think about it, I'm like, we're quick and we're ready to riot, and we can come together, Tacarra, just in those moments, though. Like, we can come together for the violence just in those moments, long enough to say, well, you know what? I was walking for Tamir Wright. You know what I'm saying? Like, I walked for him. But 2 hours later, you in old buddy's face ready to start something. Like, y'all both holding guns to each other, trying to figure out over. The bad thing is that it's always over nothing.
Right.
Like, sweet nothing. Like, you arguing about nothing. You gonna shoot him over nothing. But you mad because he got shot for being black. But you finna, pretty much, it might be different, but it's still putting a Band-aid over a situation that needs surgical attention. Like, we need to figure out what are we going to do to become better as people. And a lot of times, that's what happened, is that I think that we're so jealous as people. And I mean, it's a sin thing, if I want to be honest. Like, it's a sin thing. My sins look different than yours. Yours look different than Michaela Epps. They're different. But what happens is we become really, really jealous when we think somebody about to get on, and we've been trying to get on for so long. Well, maybe you took the wrong steps, or maybe I need Tacarra because I've been wanting to start a podcast, but I just didn't do it because I didn't have the right stuff, or I was scared, or I didn't know the steps to take, or I didn't know to buy a better microphone, or I didn't know what kind of headphones, or I didn't know how to copy the link and put it in there. Because that's what happened with me and you. I'm like, okay, where did it go? Let me hit her up and tell her I don't see nothing. But we so jealous of each other. It's like, nope, I ain't asking her for nothing, and I ain't helping her until I get on my feet. When I get on my feet, then I help her out. Well, honey, if we want to look at that thing from a biblical standpoint, if you're going to keep on saying I go to church or I connect with God when I get myself right, what happens?
Right.
We never get ourselves right. It's the same thing.
Right.
Like, it's the same exact thing. But we fail to see that, and we don't care either at the same time. I'm like, okay, so, you could come to me and be like, nah, I'm not going over to buy no hair from her because I don't like the way she runs stuff.
Right.
But you gonna go to Sally's. But you finna go to Sally's and get some stuff.
Right.
Okay. That makes sense. Like, that makes sense. Like,
with you saying that,
really?
With you saying that, and I come back to, me and my friend Margo, who does makeup, and she talks about how she went to a seminar, and she was saying how it's hard because, now you can ask other women for help because they feel like you're trying to come for them just because you're asking for help. And the thing about it is, though, like, this is something I just realized, and I'll be honest, with me doing my podcast, with me doing all the stuff that I got going on, I sit and watch people. I watch people on Snapchat who their Snapchat is nothing. I watch people with dry personalities, in which I see I have a lot of personality, and I'm thinking like, man, like I can do this, or I can make more money than what they make, and I motivate myself that way. But me and with what I'm trying to do is, I want to help people first. Like, there's so much money out here for all of us. And we just don't. We act like it. We act like only one person does one thing. Oh, I ain't gonna. She do makeup, so I ain't gonna have her on here. They like you might do your stuff different. With me doing the podcast, I had a girl the other day was telling me, hey, well, I've been wanting to start a podcast for 2 years. So first thing I asked her, and I could have easily. And her podcast has the same meaning in mine. The same purpose. Not instead of me asking, keep pushing, girl. Instead, I was like, well, why haven't you started it yet? Are you having issues? Do you not know how to get it set up? What's the problem? Because you keep saying you gonna start it, but you ain't started yet. But you been doing it for 2 years. What's the problem? Why you need to start that next week? You know what I'm saying? We need to understand that there's so much money out here for all of us. It ain't just one set of money. It's a lot of money out here to get, and we need to get it.
It is, and when I listened to Margot when I listened to that episode, I was just like, man, but she hit it on the nail even at that seminar. And I don't even like makeup, but I was like, she ain't lying, because that's what we do. It's like, no, I'm not trying to help you. Like, I don't want to give you no tips. I don't want to, like, we all different, but at the same time, like, we all are striving to do the same thing. Like, I'm trying to make sure that the stuff that I'm doing is great, and you trying to make sure whatever you doing is great. So why we can't help each other, I don't understand. I don't care if we got the same podcast. I don't care if both of us is doing makeup. I don't care if you want to write a book. I'm gonna tell you the steps that I took, because I don't know how God's gonna use you in that situation, or who he gonna have you to run into, or who you just need to run into, or what person might need you at that very moment. So I'm not gonna be like, well, no, Tacarra, I can't tell you how I wrote my book, because you might write your book and sell, 1,500 more copies.
I remember times when us as black, I remember time, and this is something that's so small, but it's so huge. I remember the time when everybody start wearing weave, people wouldn't even tell you where they got their weave from,
I know. I used to be like, so you can't tell me? And even like, because like I love getting micros because my hair is natural, and I just, there's certain hair that I put in my head I just can't, because, it itches. I'm going to go ahead and be transparent. Like, it be real bad. Like, I'm over here right now patting and stuff. But what I'm saying is that I remember a time where I'd be like, well, who did your micros? I'm not telling you, girl. She don't want nobody to know. Now, honey, I know if she charged you $150, she want another $150, and she don't care whose head it is. But we would be like, or I can't tell you what store I went to. I got it in Nashville somewhere, but I don't remember. But you on your way back there in 30 minutes, but you don't remember where you got it from.
Right, like, got the receipt.
But that's what I'm saying, with the address and the phone number. But you can't tell me because you don't want me to have the same hair as you. Like, I just be like, I don't understand. But that's the stuff that we do that we don't realize it. And it'll take stuff like me and you are doing tonight for people to realize it, because we can call it out. But at the same time, we're still trying to encourage our people to know, like, listen, y'all, if we come together, like, y'all missing out, because that's the problem. Like, we don't want to do that. But if we do, like, because that's what they don't want us to do. They don't want us to come together on a positive note.
Right.
And the black on black crime and all of that can keep on going on, but you let us start coming together for real. It's the same thing with the NFL. When I look at that situation, I'm like, now listen, when I look at the NFL, and I only watch a few teams, but when I look at them, most of y'all athletes look like me. So if we really want to start our own, we can. So if y'all ain't going to get together, I mean, it's nothing for us to just pack up our stuff and start our own, because I can guarantee you that the stands are going to look like they look now over at our league. Right. NFL might not look like that, but where we all go, because they come to see us. They come to see us because we run faster, so they say, or we jump higher, so they say. They're not coming to see just the standard old people who throw it and I might catch it here and there. They're not coming to see y'all. So I'm confused on why we don't ever get it in our heads that if we do this thing right, or if we come together, what we can accomplish and what we can do. Not to make it a race thing, but I'm just saying, like, when we get together, like, why come we only can get together, for the family reunion, right, and we only can last being around each other for about 3 hours before our Aunt Pookie be like, I gotta go because Shirley done started acting up. She don't never know. Like, we can't do it long.
Right.
We can't do it long because we don't want to have bold conversations. We don't want to feel uncomfortable. We don't want nobody to tell what we going through, or if we gonna fix it, or how many times we done remarried him, or how many times he done. We don't want to talk about none of that. We just want to sit around and clown. But then when we go home, we want to try to figure out why we're having this pity party, right, why we're crying, why we can't pay this bill, or why we can't do that. Well, you was just around the people that probably could have helped you if you was willing to be transparent, but you don't want nobody to know that you got that wound, honey. You just put that little dollar store Band-aide over and go on about your business and keep on investing your money in Dollar General instead of investing your money and your time in your family so everybody can be better. We don't want to do that. We want to be wounded.
Right.
And I just don't understand it. Like, it gave me a headache. So I was very thankful to God that he even told me, like, listen, this is what I need you to do. I need you to write this. And I was just, I guess in those moments happy that I really paid attention to what he was telling me, because, I find myself sometimes like, right, Lord, not today. But I was happy for that.
Right. So with you writing, so let's see. So you writing a Band-aide won't do. So, like, talk about how long it actually took you to write the book, and do me a favor and also talk about just the process. Just, this is for future writers out here, because, I'll be honest, with us helping each other out, and I want to ask these questions personally for myself, I'm in a place where, I've been doing webinars on writing books. I've got a couple of books that I'm wanting to write, and I'm wanting to take that step on in writing a book. So talk about just how long it took you to write, it, the struggles that you faced, and just the whole process, period, if you could do that for me.
So it took me about 3 months to write a Band-aide Won't Do. And I actually, I started it like the next day after I left my uncle's house, like immediately. Like I started it the next day. And I was like, oh man, like in like 2 weeks, I'm about to have this thing gonna be done, because I was so passionate about the stuff that, I had sat down and wrote out and mapped out, okay, I need to talk about this. I scratched that. I don't need to talk about that. Like I was so excited about this. I was like, oh, I'm gonna get this done, like really, really fast. Well, what happened is that in the process of me writing A Band-aide Won't Do, a lot of those moments where like the stuff got really, really deep and really transparent, I realized, like when the pastor will say, this ain't just for y'all, this is for me too. Well, while I was writing the book, God would stop me and I would be writing something and it would hit me so hard. I'd be like, okay, I see what you did there. You ain't slick. Like
Right.
that ain't for just them. That's for me. So it took me a little bit longer because of that, which I'm thankful for, because I know that for myself, like if it doesn't touch anybody or doesn't change anybody or any of that, I know that for me, it made me grow up a little bit more. And not just because it was coming from me, but because I actually was, I'm sitting there and I'm praying every day before I would start writing. I would pray, God, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to say? How bold do I need to be, and that kind of thing. And he quickly showed me, like, no, Chloe, this ain't just for the audience. It's not just for the readers. This is for you too. So at this moment right now, I really need you to pay attention to this, because I'm having you to write this because you wouldn't pay attention to me when I was trying to get your attention in other ways. So now that you done wrote it out and you're reading it, you're like, oh yeah, that was me. That was me. So for me, the book process, I loved it because I felt like I was learning a lot, about myself and about our people. And just like I watched so many documentaries and, I talked to so many people, and my former pastor and then some pastors that I've met, just about because they're authors and stuff. And so I talked to them and that kind of thing, and just, got everybody's insight on what I needed to do, or when do I need to take a break, or do I just write it straight through, and that kind of thing. But it took me about 3 months to write it. And then the process, of course, was just really about God teaching me a lesson, because he couldn't get my attention in other areas in my life that he had already tried.
Oh, okay. That's definitely awesome. So let me ask you another question. So so now, you're in the process. Your book is not out yet. It's in the process. It's about to be published. Talk about your release date and when it'll be available for us.
So right now, the editor that I have, he has let me know that he will be, well, originally he told me, he was like, hey, I'll be done on the 15th. The next day you can have the book out. He emailed me, the other day, and was just like, hey, it might be sooner than what I thought. So right now, what I'm looking at is that on the 16th, I'll be able to say, hey, you guys, cause it'll be on Amazon online. It'll be on Barnes and Noble online. And then of course I'll have a bunch of copies myself, and, I'll try and get to different places to do book signings and that kind of thing, so people can buy them straight from me. But right now I'm looking at December the 16th, and that's what I'm praying, like, God, please let that date just stick, because I really want the book to be out before Christmas, because I know for my family, like, there's a lot of stuff in there that I just want me and my family to sit down and discuss, to try and become better just as people and together, because we're family. So I know on Christmas we all gonna be in the same house, so I want them to have it then. So right now I'm looking at the 16th, Tacarra, and I'm praying that date is the date that sticks. But if something happens, because how the enemy works, he always wants something to go wrong.
Right.
More than likely, I want it to be ready before Christmas, in time for people to order it and be able to have it before December the 25th.
Awesome. So talking about your book, so what is the main message that you would say that you're trying to portray to your audience?
Through A Band-aide Won't Do, what I really want our people to understand is that, we all have been through something that we don't want nobody to know about, but we really need to tell somebody about, because it is keeping us from doing a lot of stuff. Like, one, it's keeping us from living. Two, it's keeping us from succeeding with our dreams and our goals. Three, it is becoming, if you can say so, hereditary, or we're passing it down to our kids or our youth or our nieces or our nephews. And so my whole goal for the book is that when people read it, they're like, man, that hurt. Like, dang, like she smacked me in the face with that. But at the end of every chapter, because it's a 7-chapter book, it's a thin book for the most part. But at the end of every chapter, there's hope, there's encouragement, there's a lot of empowerment for you to not be like, well, dang, she just gave me 2 to the face and laid me out, but she didn't stick her hand to help me back up. Well, no, at the end of it, I'm always sticking my hand out to, like, listen, I've been there too. My struggles or my traumatic experiences might not look like yours, but I understand what being Black in America is like in 2017.
Right.
So I'm not just trying to knock you down and not help you up like we consistently do with each other. What I'm actually trying to do is stick my hand out and say, listen, I want you to take your Band-aid off, because I know that I have something that can help that wound be healed, where we don't need no Band-aids, because we're good now. Like, we don't need no Band-aids. And so behind that's all I want to do, is for us to realize that we're covering up a lot of stuff with stuff that we don't need. Like, we need surgeons, like I said earlier. It might need an amputation. You know what I'm saying? We might need stitches. We might need staples. We might need to be, it might need to be us being put, in a coma. Like, but we just trying to cover that thing up just so don't nobody know we going through it. Like, I don't want nobody to see this cut, so I'm just going to put this big Band-aid over it, because I don't want nobody to see it. Right. So I want people to know, like, it's okay that you done went through this. It's okay that your family is struggling with drugs or alcohol, or, your dad's being in jail, your mother's being in jail, your mother's not being. That's okay. But it's not okay when we don't talk about it and act like it don't bother us, because it does. Right. And so behind a Band-aid won't do. That's why by the end of it, because the last chapter is a chapter that's full of hope. And at the end of that, it's kind of like flip-flop. So the whole chapter is just straight encouraging you and telling you what I think we need to replace the Band-aid with. But then at the end, I remind you again that, listen, a Band-aid won't do. And then the last sentence of that is telling you what I think will do. And not just because I think that, but because I've experienced it and I know it works. And so that's my whole message through that book, is just to let us know, like, in order for us to fix some of these things or to heal some of these wounds, we have to be willing to use the proper stuff or the right people, right, or go to the hospital, or, you know what I'm saying, sit down and listen to what this pastor is really trying to tell you, especially if you think he can help you. Not be so quick to go hide behind something so we don't have to deal with it.
Right. Oh, that's extremely powerful. So I'm going to ask you a few more questions. So, as a published author, with your book actually about to release and you coming out, hopefully, like you said, we're praying on December 16th, it's in the process. So other people, just inspiring to write a book, period. So what would you tell that other people who's inspiring to write a book? What would you tell them, whether it's advice or just encouragement? What would you tell somebody who's actually inspiring to write another book?
I would definitely tell them to start today. Like, what are you waiting on? The same thing that you were saying that you was telling the girl that you ran into about the podcast. Like, what are you waiting on? And I think that with writing, like, a lot of times, because, people are like, I have a hard time speaking, like public speaking, like, no, I don't want to do that. But when you sit down and you writing the stuff that's coming from your heart, or even if it's a novel, like, even if you making it up, but you're passionate about it, when you're passionate about something, and that's something that I had to learn, was like, listen, I'm passionate about this stuff, but I'm scared. And people who know me, they know that. Like when fear starts to come close to me, I'm like, nope, I'm just gonna sit still because I'm scared. Like, because I'm one of those people that I want to know the outcome all the time. Like, you don't try to surprise me. I don't like surprises. I want to know the outcome of stuff just because. And I'm trying to get away from that. But I would definitely tell them, like, to start it, to write it. You don't, like, so many people, just because when I put the cover out just on social media, which, I mean, I guess, social media is everything for everybody right now. Right. This generation. But when I put it out, like, I had the most randomest people, and thank God for them, but they're random because I don't know them, never met them or anything. Like, in my Twitter, like, my inbox, like, hey, listen, I know you don't know me. I'm up in New York. I got a nonprofit. I would love to set your book up. Like, when, I'm doing my nonprofit stuff. The cover alone, I don't even know what it's about, but I'm Black and you Black, and the cover alone has just caught my attention. Whenever it's going to release, can you hit me up and let me know? So then right there, I was like, oh, okay. Then I had other people just like you who was like, listen, your cover made me realize that I should have started writing the other day. Like, I've been wanting to write a book for a year or 6 months. Like, I had so many people, and I was like, God, thank you. Because without you saying, listen, I need you to do this time, I wouldn't have did it. I still been on the first page, or I still been riding in my car like, a Band-aide won't do, a
Right.
Band-aid won't do. That's a good idea, but I'm scared. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, the fear is like, no. And so, like, for me, I would just tell people, anybody that wants to write a book, like, to write it. Like, it takes time, but I mean, we spending hours on social media. You know what I'm saying? We spending hours doing a lot of stuff that really don't amount to nothing, especially when we just uploading pictures or just meddling. Well, who broke up with who on Facebook and stuff? Well, you can take 30 minutes or an hour of that time and put that into what you really are trying to do. So if there is anyone listening who wants to write a book, I would tell you, just for me, my book hasn't even came out yet, but it has already changed my life, and it has had people to come up to me and ask me so many questions, or like, hey, are you going to sign it for me in my face? And can we take pictures? And like, all kind of crazy questions and great questions. But I'm just like, man, like, it ain't even came out yet. Y'all showing me so much love. I appreciate it. Now come on back when I get ready to sign. But
Right.
I appreciate, the love that y'all are showing. So yeah, I would just tell them, like, to get started. Like, what are you aiming for? Matter of fact, if you listening to it right now, get your laptop or your pencil or your paper, write down that title that you've been thinking about for 5 years, and start getting you some little bullets and some little points of what you can do and the time that you can take out of your day to get it done.
Oh, that's really awesome too, and that really actually touched me as well, because I'm at that place where I'm writing, but I'm like, this that direction, you know what I'm saying? So just basically, you just tell me just to quit procrastinating. So that actually really helps me a lot. So just another question that I want to ask you too as well. So as a Black female, what would you want to tell other Black women who's inspiring to accomplish great things? What would you want to tell them?
I would definitely tell them, tell you, tell anyone, any woman that's Black, that your Black is beautiful, your gift is needed, and you're enough. I think a lot of times we just don't feel, as women, we just don't feel like we're enough. Like, and we try to find any and everything that will make us feel like that, whether it's the way we dress, whether it's like that. For me, and this is me being totally transparent, and I'm not even really this transparent, but I'm going to be transparent today. Like,
Okay, come on.
I've been wanting to go natural for so long. Like, you have no idea. Like, I hated perms. I hate the way perms smell and everything. But another thing, here's the fear. The fear is like, because I'm gonna have to start all over. I'm already thin, so men are gonna be like, who is that? Like, why she cut her hair like that? Like, why did she do that? Because I was gonna have to cut it all off to start natural. Like, I didn't want to like try to transition over. I just wanted to cut it and go natural. And so finally one day I just woke up and was like, you know what? I'm gonna take the scissors and I'm gonna plug a big piece where I ain't got no choice but to go natural. Because I like, when I was little, I would ask my mom all the time, Mom, can I go natural? Can I? No, you ain't going no natural. Of course, my grandmother, was a beautician, so we always had to get our hair, permed and hot combed and curled tight. And I was like,
Right.
that's not what I wanted. Like, I wanted my own natural curl. Like, I've always been the Black person that like loves being Black, if that makes sense. Like, I've always like, man, I love like who I am,
Right.
like the color of my skin. Like, I love that. Like, I actually would like to be a little darker, really. Like, I want to be my sister. Like, I've always told my sister, because my sister's a darker complexion, I'm like, I want to be your color. And she's like, why you want to be my color? That kind of thing. But I've always did that. And so, like, I was just like, you know what? If I go natural, like, people just ain't going to think I'm enough. Like, I'm just not going to be enough. Like, they're not going to think it's cute. That's not in. And then, girl, I took the scissors to car and I cut a plug in my head and I walked up to my best friend's house. I said, I need you to cut the rest of my hair because I'm going natural today. And when I did it, I felt so free. I kid you not. Like, I didn't care what people was going to say. All that day, people was asking, why'd you cut your hair? Because I wanted to. That's why I cut it, because I wanted to. Like, I don't have to give you any explanation. I cut my hair because I wanted to. And so I think a lot of times, as women, we just don't feel like we're enough. We feel like we need a whole bunch of makeup or a whole lot of weave. But there's somebody that's going to love you for you. Somebody's going to accept that who you are, what you want to do, that you want to start a podcast. Somebody's going to push you into your dreams. Like, you ain't got to look like nobody else. You ain't got to act like nobody else. Like, you are enough. Like, and so that's definitely what I would tell. Like, anybody that's listening, and just people that I come in contact with all the time. Like I'm always telling Black women, because God has this thing on me where He's always, having me to encourage a Black woman that has been through so much. And I always let her know at the end of our conversation, listen, you're enough. Like, honey, you're enough. Like, and I mean that, like, where every single letter in that word, I want you to hear it. Like, you are enough. Like, and you shouldn't let anybody make you feel like you're not. Like, you don't have to be anybody but who God created you to be, honey. And He is going to get you where He needs you to be at the right time, you're going to be in the right place. And anything that He needs from you, if you are tuned in and paying attention to that, it's going to prosper, because He has called you to it. So you don't have to look like nobody or any of that. You're enough. And that's something that I just try to tell, like, my family members, my friends, strangers, everything, that listen, you're enough. Whatever you want to do, it's enough. Just go do it. Like, what are you waiting for? Go do it.
Right. So, okay, so you just said like a whole mouthful there that just really touched me, and just I appreciate your passion, like, and I love that. Like, I love that from you. That's what I wanted my show to be about. Like, I want passionate people. I want people who's hungry. I want people who want to help people. So, Chloe, like, just for you, so let me ask you another question. So, like, with you got to finish your book. Your book's gonna be published. Your book's gonna be out in stores. It's gonna be ready to sell. So, what's next from you? So, where do you go from here?
So really, I want the book to, I want it to do a lot for our people. But I don't just want to just sit around and, like, see, like, okay, well, let me see what this book gonna do this week. Let me see what it's gonna do next week. And I'm like you, like, and I think I told you this through text and just us having conversations. Like, I should have already had my website started a long time ago, because I've always wanted a blog, but I haven't did that yet either. So right now, that's what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to start blogs, and start little videos of just encouraging women, more so than anybody else, because I find that I run into a lot of women who, like I said earlier, they just don't feel like they're enough, or they don't feel like that they can turn around, from some of the stuff that they've went through. They don't see no sunshine. All they see is storms. And so I definitely am looking to start that, and hopefully, by the end of this week, once I make sure that the book gets out and everything, then I'll get on, trying to figure out, if I want to do podcasts or if I want to do videos. Because sometimes, just talking to a camera, to me, I'm just like, that's like, it's a struggle. But God has called me to those things. He's called me to start speaking to women. He did that so long ago. Like, listen, y'all pray for me, because it's been 4 years where He's like, I need you to start speaking. And I've done, little bitty, speeches to women and stuff like that. But I know that's not what He's talking about. So for me, definitely speaking is on my list, the top of my list of things. And my website, just getting it started so I can encourage people through words, whether it's just a quote a day or, little paragraph or pages, So you can just pay attention to, my social medias and stuff. I usually use Facebook to vent to women a lot, but I know that once I get my website started, I won't have to, use that so much. I can just be like everybody else and be meddling. But I can get this website up, which I'll definitely share through social media, that it's up and that it's running, just to encourage women.
It's okay. So that's awesome. That's awesome. So something I want to do, Chloe. So something I always tell myself I was going to do on It's a Mindset. So, as far as when you've got stuff going, whether you're a business owner, whether you're a published author and you're trying to write a book, at the end of the day, when you're trying to accomplish something, you're trying to do great things and you're trying to help other people, you do have those those struggles that you have where you don't always feel confident. You don't always feel like you have the support. So I just want to take that time just to show you that I support you. So, Chloe, just keep pushing. Just keep pushing, and just understand that whatever you need from me, I'm here to help you. And I don't have any motives behind it. Just like your website, my heart is so big just with your website. So, if you want to start that website tomorrow, we can spend time, or I will take the time out of the day to show you, okay, this is what we're going to do for your website. This is what I've used. This is how I've used. I like this because this, it costs this, or, you do this. Like, So just keep pushing and just understand, and one thing I can see about you, you put God first. And that's the huge thing. Putting God first and just understanding that, when you're living your purpose and you're doing what he's asked you to do, you're always going to be successful. And, I may have not have felt this way more than I feel it right now. Just, I really feel like with all the stuff that's going on where people getting fired from their jobs and they doing a bunch of messy stuff, or people just in our, just people, our head, our leader right now, the country. And I really feel like God is calling his people to do great things and to help other people. So, just I support you 100%. Whatever you need from me, and I plan on, whenever we get those book signings together, it's a mindset, I want to be there 100%. I want to promote your book. I want to get the word out there. Just whatever you need from me, I just hope that you understand and you just feel that you can holler at me for whatever you need. And just, we support you 100%. And just whatever you need from us, just, I got you. And, and I thank you so much for having you here today. You definitely blessed me, and you're going to bless my listeners and people listening today. And it was just awesome. It was just awesome. So just, if you have any closing remarks or anything else that you want to say, just go ahead and run with it.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. Sometimes when you have a conversation with people and they tell you that, you like, nah, she ain't finna do anything. But you are definitely one of those people, Tacarra, and this. I'm not one of those people that like to boost people up just to boost them up. I'm usually pretty authentic, and pretty straightforward. Like, you're just one of those people that even when I look at your social media, I'm like, listen, that's the type of people, that's the type of person that I want to be around. Just because, like, most of the stuff that I see that you put up, I also watch you do, even if it's from afar, even if it's through social media. Like, I watch you do the stuff that you say you want to do. Like, I remember when you saying I want to start a blog, and then out of the blue, I'm like, oh, she wasn't playing. She went in on that thing. So, like, I'm telling you, I'm right there with you, like, just to support you. I love supporting people. And listen, fourth quarter mindset, you don't have to play sports to have that. Everybody has that grind. When it comes down to crunch time, it ain't about passing that ball. It's not about trying to figure out who's going to pay the bill for you. You just grind.
Right.
You flat out grind. You do everything. If we're going to talk about it in a basketball sense, just real fast, first and second, third quarter, we kind of slack off, like, I ain't going to do that. But when the game's on the line,
okay,
and then you realize, oh, I got the fourth quarter mindset now because it's fourth quarter and I ain't trying to lose. And you realize, oh, that's what coach was talking about when he wanted me to sit down on defense in the first quarter.
Okay.
Now I'm ready to do it. And so I'm right there with you, just to let you know, listen, I got the fourth quarter mindset just because I know who you are and I understand that. But I just want you to know, just to encourage you, that even if people who don't play sports, they understand what you're talking about with that. And I appreciate you having my back, and I believe that you have my back. So when the book drops, listen, honey, I'll make sure that you get yours, and also make sure that you can come down, or I can come up there where you are, and maybe, we can connect with some people where we have a book signing somewhere there. I appreciate you having me on here. And, like always, I'm praying for you and everybody else that you are able to get on here and talk about their stories and their life. And I know that it is going to prosper the way that God has called for it to do so. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh, awesome. So, Chloe Elam, a Band-aide won't do it. It's actually, hopefully it'll be coming out here December 16th. So stay tuned. We'll definitely be promoting that. Definitely get your copy. Just support. It's for a good cause. You've heard from her personally. She's passionate about what she's doing. She wants to help people. It's not a scheme to make money. It's not a scheme. It's a purpose. So definitely just support her purpose and just be there for her. And Chloe, like I said, we got your back. And just once again, thank you for tuning in to the fourth quarter today.
Thank you, Tacarra.